Okay, so if you're a developer, you've probably used AI in VS Code, and let's be honest, it feels like magic, right? Well, what if I told you it's not magic at all? It's actually a super clever, well-thought-out architecture. And today, we're going to pull back that curtain and see exactly what makes it tick. Let's dive in.
I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it? You type in a request, you ask Copilot to whip up a function or explain some gnarly piece of code, and poof, there it is. How does it get from your simple text prompt to a real working solution? That's the big question we're going to crack open today.
You know, a really good way to think about all these AI features is on a spectrum. It's all about how much they can do on their own. On one end, you've got your simple inline suggestions, super helpful, but not very autonomous. Then you move up the ladder to things like chat, right? A bit more interactive. And then at the very top, you have the heavy hitters, fully autonomous agents that can plan and carry out complex tasks all by themselves.
So the big question is, how do you make that leap from a simple suggestion to a complex thinking agent? You need a blueprint, a master plan, and it turns out there's this beautifully clear and modular architecture that powers the whole thing.
And here it is. This is our roadmap for today. The whole system is built on these 6 core pillars. Just think of it like building a robot, okay? You've got the engine, which is the language model. You've got its memory, which is the context it sees. It needs hands to do stuff. Those are its tools. And of course, it needs a brain to think. That's the agent. And then all of that is wrapped up in the rules you get to set and the guardrails that keep everything safe.
All right, let's start at the beginning. We're going to kick things off with the absolute foundation. These are the 3 pillars that everything else is built on top of: the engine, the memory, and the hands.
Okay, so at the very heart of everything is the language model, the LLM. That's our engine. But this engine, as powerful as it is, has some, let's call them quirks. For one, it's a bit unpredictable. Ask it the same thing twice, you might get 2 different answers. It's also completely reliant on what you tell it. Garbage in, garbage out, right? And maybe most importantly, its knowledge has a cutoff date. It doesn't know anything that happened after it was trained. So the rest of this whole architecture, it's basically a genius system designed to work around these exact issues.
And the single biggest problem they have to solve is this thing called the context window. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like the model's short-term memory. It's a tiny little window it can look through. It's a massive bottleneck because the LLM can only think about the stuff that you can cram into that little window at any one time.
And you wouldn't believe how much stuff is fighting to get into that tiny space. You've got system instructions, your chat history, all the code in your open tabs, any files you specifically mention, all of that has to be squeezed into one single prompt. Seriously, managing this bottleneck is probably one of the hardest parts of building a good coding AI.
So how does VS Code get around this? Well, here's the secret weapon: workspace indexing. What it does is create this really smart semantic map of your entire codebase. So now, instead of just randomly stuffing files into the prompt, it can surgically find and inject only the most relevant pieces of code. And that is the magic trick. That's how you get an answer that feels like it truly understands your project, not just some generic answer from the internet.
Okay, so we've got our engine, and we figured out its memory. But a brain in a jar can't do much, right? It needs hands, and that's exactly what tools are. This is what turns the AI from just a fancy text generator into an actual, well, an assistant. Tools are what let it reach out and interact with your world, reading files, writing code, running commands in the terminal, even calling out to APIs. Without hands, the engine is just spinning its wheels.
All right, things are about to get really interesting. We have the engine, we have the memory, we have the hands. Now we can finally put them all together and build the brain of the whole operation, the agent.
So an agent basically just works in a simple, continuous loop. Step 1, it has to understand your goal. It looks at the context, it searches the code base, it figures out what you actually want. Step 2, it acts. It uses its tools to make a plan and then carry it out, modifying your code, running a command, whatever it needs to do. And step 3, and this part is absolutely critical, it validates. It checks its own work. It runs tests, it looks for errors, and if it messed up, no big deal. It just goes right back to the understand step and tries a different approach. So yeah, just to burn it into your brain, understand, act, validate. That's the agentic loop. It's this constant cycle of planning, doing, and self-correcting over and over again until the job is done. And what's really cool is that these agents aren't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. You can see here they can run right on your local machine, which is great for quick interactive stuff, or for the really heavy lifting, you can have them run in the cloud as a background job. It's all about having the right tool with the right amount of power exactly when you need it. Okay, but a super smart agent doing its own thing can be a little scary, right? How do you keep it on a leash? Well, that's where something like the app plan workflow comes in, and it's brilliant. It basically forces the agent to hit the pause button and show you a step-by-step plan. You have to give it the green light before it's allowed to touch a single line of code. It's that crucial checkpoint that keeps you in charge and makes sure the AI is doing exactly what you want.
And that brings us perfectly to our last two pillars, and these are all about putting you, the developer, firmly in the driver's seat. Think of this as the AI's control panel, customization and trust. Right, so this is not some black box you can't touch. The whole system is designed from the ground up to be deeply customizable. You're looking at a whole toolkit that lets you fine-tune the AI's behavior for your specific needs. Everything from making it follow your team's coding style to bundling up complex workflows.
Just to give you a taste, you can create these things called prompt files to save and share common tasks so you're not always repeating yourself. You can go even further and build agent skills for really complex, multi-step jobs. Or, and this is super powerful, you can create entirely custom agents with their own personalities, like a dedicated agent for writing documentation or another one that's an expert in finding security holes.
And last but definitely not least, let's talk about the guardrails. The philosophy here is basically trust but verify. The system is packed with these checkpoints where it has to stop and ask for your permission before it does anything potentially big, like editing a bunch of files or running a terminal command. You get to set the permission levels, you are always in control and have the final say.
Okay, let's take a step back and look at the big picture. When you put all 6 of these pillars together, what you get is so much more than just a chatbot. It's really a complete cybernetic system. Now, let's be real. No system is perfect, and this one is no exception. There are known limitations. The LLM can still hallucinate and write bad code, it can be vulnerable to things like prompt injection attacks, and that's precisely why human oversight is not just important, it's absolutely essential. The ultimate safety net will always be you, the developer, carefully checking its work before anything gets committed. And this final diagram just ties it all together beautifully. Look, you are the conductor of this orchestra. You provide the high-level direction, the context, and the rules. The agent engine, that's the LLM, the tools, and the context all working together, goes and does the work. Then the results come back, they hit those safety guardrails, and land on your desk for final approval. It's a true partnership. And that really brings us to the single most important thing to remember from all of this. This quote just nails the entire philosophy. The AI in VS Code is not a chatbot. It's a modular, customizable system that is designed to amplify your intent, not to replace it. The goal was never to take away your job. It's to give you superpowers so you can be even better at it.